Welcome back, everybody. I'm Alice Blue, and I have Embers of Drift patch notes for you. This is the first patch of 2023, so let's go get into it. Alright, and here we are. These are going to be the notes for January 3rd. What's new? Welcome to 2023. Everyone on the team is slowly getting back into the groove of things, and we can't wait to continue pumping out content. This week brings a number of updates to dots, debuff applications, resist adjustments, ability improvements, combat log improvements, camera collision fixes, and a new high-level outdoor dungeon for you to explore. We expect a number of new quests to come online in the coming weeks, along with improvements to active defenses and maybe a few new creatures. Bug fixes and improvements. Tech. Fixed dots and debuffs that are partially resisted now correctly reduce their duration. Fixed combat stance no longer resets your out of combat regen bonus timer. The timer is wholly based on your in-combat state, determined by the sword icon fill under your nameplate. Fixed nav mesh issues inside a Redshore Ridge rock, causing mobs to spawn inside of it. Internal camera scripts updated to the latest version. This includes a number of collision bug fixes that were plaguing our game and should hopefully result in much more fluid experience. These fixes remove the need for the recently added checkbox, Disable Camera Collision Smoothing. Please uncheck this option if you're using it and let me know if the camera's issues are less problematic. I would like to remove this checkbox within the next few weeks. Scene loading tech rewritten to accommodate upcoming changes. See patch size in the work in progress section below for more details. Environment and art. Fixed missing wall collider in the Aquifer Undercroft. Fixed water issues in the Undercroft level 1 entrance room. Fixed miscellaneous prop placement and environment bugs in New Haven Valley and Redshore Ridge. UI. Fixed additional item linking fixes. Added disables auto attack on execution to the tooltip of abilities which disable auto attack on their usage, aka CC. Design. Dots now gain a damage bonus when their initial strike scores a heavy or critical hit. Dots and debuffs can now be applied to a red mob that you can hit, +3 and +4. Durations of these lasting effects will be reduced appropriately. Added additional uncommon drops to Redshore Ridge. Cleaned up draw slick pathing in Dryfoot to not walk through structures. Increased group bonus range from 40 meters to 50 meters. Increased armor augment duration for higher level augments. Reduced Raven Rock weapon required level from 15 to 12 to better match the quest level. Renamed Spider's Silk to Silk and increased the chances of it dropping. Updated Anthill loot tables from level 33 to 40. Updated rares and level 36 chests. Fixed consistently set elm to material level 38. Fixed generic mushroom oil material category so it can properly be used for ground torches. Fixed skinning level on mole bear. Fixed issue in Undercroft where named mobs or placeholders may spawn outside of their accessible areas. Fixed an issue where a rare spawn stalactite. I don't know what that word is, man. Anyways, so fix the issue with that particular rare spawn using the wrong loot table. Fixed Raven Rock shortbow having two-handed damage instead of range damage. Fixed a few hoods and masks with armor weight, which should have none. Fixed dense resource spawns in Redshore and Redshore Ridge. Ability adjustments. From the shadows should now always crit. Provoke range increased from 8 meters to 10 meters. Serration can no longer stack multiple times on the same character. Stim updated to give stamina to the target directly. Disengage increased threat reduction amount at higher levels. Hemorrhaging strike chance to proc first stages of damage increased. Stifle haste reduction increased. Energizing battle chant updated to give an extra stamina tick on tiers that were stopping at 28 seconds. Note that this buff will now last 32 seconds at these level ranges. New stuff. Resist adjustments. This patch brings improvements to how resists work for lasting effects like dots and debuffs. Much of the feedback we have gotten thus far is that resists are a worthless stat because it's not really felt. When resisting an effect, the duration is reduced based on your resist values. However, shaving off 2 seconds of a 10-second daze probably isn't even something players notice. One of the design reasons for only reducing the duration is that we felt that if a player's ability was resisted, they would feel as though their stamina was wasted. But we are also depriving players of the rewarding feeling of straight up resisting an incoming effect. We're adding a full resist dice roll to combat calculations, hoping that it will inject a little bit more life into these stats. It will also allow us to do some more interesting things with them in the future. To avoid any drastic changes to the core combat loop, having to rebalance resist values or obsoleting gear, we are simply setting the chance of fully resisting an effect's application to 20% of your resist value. For example, a character with a 40 days resist will have an 8% chance to fully resist the daze application. If the effect is not fully resisted, the duration will still be reduced by 40% as it is now. Note that this additional check will be in place for players applying effects to NPCs as well. I do like this. This is a good quality of life change here. Updates to combat text. To improve the visibility of resist and other events, we have made some improvements to the combat log. This will be an ongoing iterative process with the goal of delivering more data while maintaining readability and brevity. Other combat text is now 20% smaller to help differentiate it from your own. Can we get that to be just like an option? Click a little box. That'd be great. I'm blind. I have struggled to read the text as it is. Updated the rounding of combat log display values. Previously, all values were rounded down regardless of decimal value. Values will now be rounded down if the value is less than 0.5 and rounded up if they are greater than or equal to 0.5. Additional information has been added to the parentheses after combat text. The abbreviations also now have tooltips in which you can hover over for a reminder. ADV, the attack had an advantage. DIS, the attack had a disadvantage. ADV with a strike through, the attack had an advantage that was cancelled by a disadvantage. RES, the application was resisted. PRES, the application was partially resisted. DIM, the application was impacted by diminishing returns. ABS, the value absorbed by armor. THR, the threat value. OT, the value done by overtime effects, like dots and hots. That's good. Another good quality of life update here. Redshore Ridge Exile Freehold. A new outdoor dungeon is now available in Redshore called the Exile Freehold. The higher level zone shares the same server executable as Redshore Ridge, but is not physically connected to it in any way. So we got a new dungeon in Redshore. Works in progress. To see a full list of what is currently in progress, head on over to this thread. I will do my best to update this list on a weekly basis and highlight the differences from the previous week with bold font. Below, I will highlight some of the upcoming changes in more detail. Active defense revamp, 1 to 3 weeks. Current active defenses, avoid, block, and parry, are all functionally the same. This poses a few design issues as players could potentially stack these values to completely mitigate incoming damage while not providing any interesting decisions along the way. We have always wanted to swing back around to update these, but things got lost in the shuffle at launch. To rectify this, we have started modifying the design of how active defenses differ from one another and what benefits they could provide to the player. The current thought process is as follows. Avoid remains relatively unchanged. This stat will be found mostly on low armor class gear and or jewelry. We very well may add threat reduction on a successful avoid. That would be really cool. Actually, yeah, that would be super awesome. That would actually make me want avoid gear. if it did that. Right now as it is, I pick up something with avoid, it's what, +1, +2? Garbage. Not as good as flanking. Not as good as debuff resist. Not as good as all the other stats. Garbage. Personally, for me as a warden, I don't need avoid, you know. Block will move from its current state to a mitigation percent dependent on your shield and or two-handed weapon. Given that the initial design intent of this stat was to be more tank focused, we wanted to add some options here that hopefully make things a bit more interesting. Our current thought is to add a block rating, a range, to two-handed weapons and shields. Upon successfully blocking an incoming attack, a dice will be rolled on the values of your weapons and shield to determine how much damage you essentially resist, not absorb. Having a range on the items will allow us to provide an additional layer of progression. For example, maybe a low-level shield has a 15 to 30% block rating, whereas a higher level shield has a 25 to 30% block rating, giving you more consistent results. In addition to the above, we are also considering adding additional threat to successful blocks. Again, that would be amazing. Real quick here though, I want to say that it is important to differentiate that. Here they put not absorb right here. Absorbing is not the same as resisting. Okay? When you absorb damage, that means that the damage absorbed, it was absorbed by what? Your armor. Your armor took the damage for you. Different than resisting. Also different than blocking. Block and absorb, not the same, right? Anyways, parry. This stat is a bit tricky as it lies somewhere in between a defensive and offensive stat. Offensive because you get the chance to riposte. When a player successfully parries an attack, the incoming attack will suffer a disadvantage along with a fixed damage percent mitigation, similar to block, except it will be independent of the weapon. In addition, we would beef up riposte to make it a lot more powerful than an additional auto attack. Guys, I like these ideas. These are good ideas. Really good ideas. None of this is set in stone, as we are still iterating, so we would love to hear your thoughts on these proposed changes. There were a number of other design proposals that didn't make the cut as we found them to be less interesting and or obfuscated. obfuscated, English, whatever. Too much information happening on the back end. We hope that the above proposed changes will give us a decent amount of flexibility for interesting encounters and itemizations. Imagine a chaos shield with a 1 to 100% block rating. That would be absolute chaos. That definitely would be chaos. I kind of want to have it just to meme around. These are good ideas. I like them. Then again, I love anything that makes theory crafting and combat way more complicated. I like having many things to factor in, right? Like, anyways, not gonna go on that tangent. I digress. Patch size ongoing. We are working on migrating our scenes to a new loading system that will reduce the overall size of patches. At the moment, all scenes are lumped together into a large 3 GB file. Anytime data within this file changes, it must be re-downloaded, even if those changes are small. By breaking our data up into smaller chunks, those downloads will ideally be minimized to smaller individual files moving forward. The end result will be saving us bandwidth and saving you download time on patch day. The tech required to do this loading has been implemented. The work remaining is breaking up the scenes into individual files along with creating the shared bundles that contain assets used by multiple scenes. This work is taking much longer than initially anticipated due to the large dependency trees within scenes. Dependency of trees within scenes. I think you meant to say. Fixed it for you. We are packing resources into shared bundles, which requires us to identify what goes in each to prevent duplicates. The scene loading tech was rewritten over the break to accommodate this future change and will be active in this patch. Known issues. Resource nodes may occasionally tell you invalid target. This means that your client thinks a resource node is there, but the server does not. We are still investigating the cause of this. Occasionally, a loot roll may be skipped entirely and the carcass will be given. When this happens, please provide any relevant details, as we are still trying to track this one down. Deconstructing crafted items returns junk 100% of the time. Not all clothing and armor has visuals. Hoods, we want hoods. Dragging a group nameplate in the group window will set the wrong pivot point for the group window, and the whole thing will drag a bit weird. Typing chat text may occasionally become invisible. Unfocus your chat window and try again a few times. It typically resolves this. Sometimes when you respawn, you don't end up with the proper halo. If this happens, please report the position where you died via the report command or the debug position. If using debug position, you'll need to paste the value here on the forums or in Discord, whatever. Mac OS. Zooming the camera holding the right mouse button can cause your chat window to scroll. This is not intended behavior. At some camera angles, the sun may go dark. This should not happen frequently, but is readily reproducible at some locations. Investigating a fix. Alright guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, maybe drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. And I hope to see you in game.